Money doesn't follow merit. It follows power, like the tide follows the moon. You can sweat, calculate, hope if your position exerts no gravity, value slips elsewhere. It's harsh, but liberating. This game doesn't reward complaints or isolated integrity, it rewards architecture. Stop begging for payment for your hours, learn to direct the flows. Power here isn't a roar, but a cold arrangement silence that presses, presence that doesn't justify itself, options that wait. Instead of adding up efforts, you install levers. Instead of trying to seem fair, you become necessary. The stage isn't the right one, leave the theater of approval, enter the workshop of systems. The goal isn't to be seen, but to be traversed by value. From there, everything chains together: data, narrative, latency, discipline, and fortune stops being an accident and becomes a trajectory. Declare nothing. Execute. In today's real economy, value doesn't circulate first through logic, but through measured, archived, amplified belief via data. Every gesture leaves a trace as a click, reading time, an email open, a micro hesitation at checkout. These signals aggregate into trajectories. The algorithm promotes what retains. The platform rewards what brings returns. Reputation solidifies like sediment from tiny proofs. You don't just buy a product, you buy the story that wraps it, then the quantified confirmation that others believed in it before you. Individual judgment grafts onto public metrics. Stars, comments, cumulative views, and belief, bolstered by data, turns into financial inertia. Whoever frames perception directs the flow. A name, a promise, an aesthetic, and around them a constellation of signals: regularity in deliveries, clarity in documents, drama-free customer service, mastered silence in tense moments. Data isn't just accounting, it's narrative. A graph becomes a story of reliability. A retention rate becomes proof of belonging. A low refund rate becomes a demonstration of felt value. Systems learn from these stories and replay them in loops, propelling toward visibility those who built auditable belief, punishing those who feed on flashes without continuity. Your work in this magnetic field is to organize markers that survive the buzz: measurable milestones, met expectations, a semantic identity that doesn't vary with moods. We talk less about luck than architecture: positioning the offer where data validates the belief you install. Instead of imploring market justice, you give the market reasons to believe without effort. Power here resembles geometry: visible points of support, reduced blind spots, removed frictions, a way of telling that makes the transaction obvious. From this geometry, money no longer rewards abstract fatigue, it flows down the slope you've drawn, and that slope is maintained by the discipline of signals, not the agitation of promises. The trap doesn't present as a chain, but as a virtue. Work hard, follow the rules, wait your turn. This morality of effort seems noble because it secures, giving immediate meaning to fatigue and apparent dignity to sacrifice. Yet, it's a prison of hours. You trade the only truly finite currency, your time, for a salary calibrated to maintain survival, never ascent. The day fills up, conscience calms, and the illusion of progress replaces the reality of leverage. You become exemplary in a system that doesn't reward exemplarity, but positioning. They praise your rigor and trust you with critical tasks that open no horizons, promise the next window. When budgets allow, meanwhile, you fund the systems of those who understood that flow follows framed belief, not isolated sweat. The prison works through 3 locks. The first is effective: the dopamine of a checked task, cleared inbox, green dashboard convinces you progress is real. The second is moral. Refusing an extra hour feels like disloyalty, so you offer more time hoping justice will eventually recognize the effort. The third is narrative. They tell you the rich got lucky, or are smarter. Never that their architectures capture your hours to turn them into yields. Thus, you sell what doesn't multiply, while they buy what compounds. The result is discreet but relentless. You're visible for your availability, invisible for your power. They can count on you, so they lean on you, so you stay where they lean. Your competence serves as glue, not a springboard. And when exhaustion hits, they offer consumerist appeasement. An impulse buy, a small reward. That recycles your fatigue into new commitments. Meanwhile, data keeps aggregating proofs of your reliability as an executor, never as an architect. Exiting this theater doesn't mean despising work, but stopping to sell at retail. Withdrawing hours isn't laziness, it's pulling energy from leverage. Less zones to reallocate to positions that channel flows, systems, narratives, assets, agreements where the unit of time stops being billed and starts governing. You don't refuse effort, you refuse effort that buys no options. You keep the discipline, but change the gravity. The mechanism plays out before words in how you hold the void. Silence isn't withdrawal, it's cold pressure that forces the other to reveal. Where the old reflex sought to convince by argument, you now frame by absence of comment. Words become rare because data, micro-reactions, breathing cadence, priority choices. Surface is better when not covered by noise. You let the curves of the moment imprint. Who can't handle waiting shows their need. Who fills the silence pays for breaking it. The play reverses, they no longer evaluate you. They seek your green light. Staying unreadable isn't playing Sphinx. It's removing handles by which you could be moved. You discipline the face, slow the response, deflate the temptation to explain everything. The readability you offer is procedural. Criteria, deadlines, formats, never emotional. They know how to work with you, not how to disrupt you. This separation between clear frame and opaque center transforms risk dynamics. The adversary can't estimate the cost of attacking you. The partner can anticipate your delivery quality. Your unpredictability isn't caprice, it's organized ignorance of your triggers. They can negotiate the perimeter, never your internal rhythm. Patience, finally, isn't slowness but selection. You withdraw strokes that flatter the ego to wait for those that pay. In markets as in boardrooms, you let excess energy burn in others. Frenzy produces signals betrayed by fatigue, you collect. When fear peaks, your calm looks like an anomaly. In reality, it's a temperature differential. You operate cool. Buy when narrative cracks, intervene when the assembly hits saturation, pose a short question right after the hubbub. Patience doesn't add virtue, it removes randomness. These three vectors, silence, unreadability, patience, serve the same purpose. Reduce attack surface, increase optionality. Every withheld reaction is a door that doesn't slam, every slowed tempo is space where others expose, every undelivered info is a reserve for future movement. And because the contemporary economy stacks behavioral proofs, your constancy becomes a countable asset. They associate you less with spectacular effects than repeatable outcomes. Power doesn't declare itself, it's observed. You've left the morality of effort and the aesthetics of performance. You enter the engineering of positions where the slightest spoken word, when it comes, leans on an already visible architecture and a margin of uncertainty you alone control. Beneath the calculation's surface lies the magnet that warps everything, the need to be seen and the refuge of comfort. You think you choose, but it's dopamine pushing. The micro reward of approval, the quick high of a purchase, the relief of speaking too soon to dispel anxiety. This circuit costs you dear. Every time you seek to be understood, you hand over handles. Every time you seek calm, you sell margin. The external economy doesn't even need to manipulate you, your biology handles it. Jung might call it attachment to the persona, that social mask turned oxygen supplier. As long as others gaze as your breath, you don't own your tempo, you belong to the next stimulus. Reconfiguring doesn't mean hardening, but reordering. Sensation stops being pilot, becomes instrument. Coldness isn't heartlessness, it's deciding not to convert emotion into unchosen movement. You train the body to stay, even when impulse wants flight, train the tongue to hold, even when ego wants to explain, train the hand not to click, even when reward blinks. 3 minutes of pause are worth a fortune when they prevent a spend of reputation, cash, energy. This voluntary delay creates an air pocket where thought regains density and impulse shows as reflection, not command. Then comes operational detachment. You don't cure addiction to gaze by moralizing it, but by substituting internal markers for external applause. You measure days by what remains when noise fades. Clean deliverables, held decisions, calibrated risks, not by notification froth. By adding them up, these quiet proofs saturate projection space. No need to understand you to cooperate, because your frame is stable, your edge is clear. Comfort changes nature, no longer anesthesia that softens you, but coherence that carries you. You can say no without theater, yes without begging, wait without losing face. When gaze stops being a drug, it becomes information. When comfort stops being escape, it becomes machine maintenance. And that's where the center firm's fear of displeasing loses its bite. Euphoria of validation loses its price. You no longer flee tension, you put it to work for you. Until the world reads not your emotions, but your axis direction. Power engineering starts where retail time, selling stops, you cease being an execution force and become an architecture channeling flows. Leverage isn't style, it's position. You install systems that work while you sleep, agreements that ripple your decision without constant recall, interfaces converting wasted attention into measurable trajectories. Substitution follows. Instead of trading hours for crumbs, you sub ideas for labor, influence for effort, narrative for mere functionality. They don't pay for what it is, they pay for what it means to belong. A bare object is worth little, wrapped in precise story. Promise, proofs, aesthetic, access rights. It becomes a gravity center. Narrative isn't varnish, it's perception protocol. It names the enemy to avoid as waste, mediocrity, anxiety, calls the ally to join as clarity, speed, pride of used, sets a scene where the buyer sees themselves acting. Then logic follows, because belief found form. Machiavelli reminds that direct dependence makes you vulnerable. Don't base assent on arms you must watch, but mechanisms making defection costly and cooperation obvious. A recurring channel beats an isolated feat, a modular offer beats custom that swallows you. A clear standard beats a promise shifting with weather. Leverage is discrete stacking distribution you don't own but influence, automations removing chance, partnerships extending reach without diluting access. And narrative, to hold, must be auditable, simple metrics verifiable without drama, retention, delay, recommendation rate. You tell, but leave white pebbles. Substitution goes further, you replace presence with artifacts. Documents deciding in your stead, checklists standardizing quality, offers self-protected by design. In each exchange, withdraw a time unit, add a position unit. Learn to refuse what doesn't compound unique work without reuse. Clients buying your attention, not system. Projects flattering ego and starving margin. Power here needs no arguments, it's observed when ecosystem rewrites around your frames. They no longer ask you to help. They plug flow into your norm, and you keep volume low, because governing narrative needs no shouting. It leans on calm proofs and predictable consequences. Declare nothing. Execute. Strategic void isn't retreat, it's pressure device. Withdraw ornaments, suspend response, and the room works for you. Information retention isn't theatrical, it's dosing access, showing only what's needed to advance play, never enough to map you. You replace explanation with structure, clear frame, visible criteria, held deadlines. All else stays latent, not to manipulate, but preserve asymmetry, protecting options. Useful mystery arises from parsimony, word rarity, infrequent but sharp appearances, fragments delivered in order, building trajectory over spectacle. In negotiation, don't say where you can go, indicate where you've been, then pose a short question, shifting cadence. The other, bothered by ellipsis, fills void with constraints, limits, hidden priorities. In commerce, don't dump features. Install minimal narrative backed by auditable proofs. Usage capture, retention rate, no drama correction policy. Silence here isn't mutism, it's filter passing serious demand, holding noise of curious. In leadership, don't offer absolute transparency. Offer enough readability to act, protective opacity on what revealed becomes vulnerable. They know how to decide you, not destabilize you. Retention tunes like a diaphragm. Too closed, you tip to sterile hermetism. Too open, you become predictable and cheap. Learn to speak in layers. General intent, concrete milestone, verifiable measure, keeping triggers, max concessions, internal logic of renunciations under lock. This dosing fabricates gravity. Access to you costs, attention, prep, seriousness, and that elevates exchange quality. Rarer presence, heavier each appearance, more fractionated info, preciser each fragment. Then void stops being awkward silence, becomes decanting chamber where promises collapse, urgencies sort, value proves not by volume but what you choose to withhold a moment longer. Lasting authority leans neither on declarations nor intimidation, but observable competence auditable without theater. Stop promising show. Clean deliverables, held deadlines, assumed corrections without drama, traceable decision chain turning your name into marker over billboard. Trust is no longer emotion. It's reading they can check you're resolving, documenting, anticipating. Then power changes texture. It resembles low, running mechanics, each gear with known tolerance. Uncertainty exists but doesn't explode because framed in governed risks. You classify real by reversibility quick, undo tests quick, long engage accords slow, refuse improvised, courage, high for safety margin. Pre-mortems copy shadow before it overruns. Kill switches remove stubborn temptation. Explicit thresholds prevent negotiating evidence. You don't play infallibles, install guardrails authorizing controlled failure. Thus competence becomes visible without noise, surviving surprises. Risk governance holds in exposure discipline. Limit attack surfaces few but clear contact points, few but solid dependencies, few but tenable promises. Practice redundancy where rupture cost maxes, rapid iteration where learning pays. Rate, limit ego flatterers, announcements, confidences, over-explanations, and accelerate credibility feeders. Retention metrics, correction rates, recovery times. When alert sounds, don't seek culprit fix, write, adjust. Post-mortem sober, incident log exists, lesson migrates to standard. Thus reputation stops fragile narrative, becomes statistic that protects. Remains dark laws temptation. Leash them with ethical firewalls, no opacity isolating, no unreadability veering to paranoia, no patience disguising inertia, no narrative spilling to manipulation. Frame you offer readable to cooperate, opaque to attack, but never toxic. They know where your yes starts, no stops, how error pays, how rigor rewards. Over time, room relaxes, serious allies approach, short-term players exhaust. Your competence doesn't dazzle, it organizes. Your risk management doesn't dramatize, it cushions. And in this stabilized field, decisions carry without exhibiting, because everything around learns to count on what holds. You move from concept to field by choosing scenes where gravity measures. In negotiation, stop piling arguments, set bounds and observe. Withdrawal option isn't threat. It's climate you can leave without identity loss, so speak slow, let numbers breathe, wait for other to fill void. When you intervene, shift support point. A reversible trial clause, audit milestone adjustment mechanism, never to vibrate ego. Room gets that gaining sound brings nothing if losing certainty. Your silence becomes opportunity cost. In business, stop selling features, sell belonging. Bare product is function, wrapped in verifiable narrative, portable identity. Care for onboarding like entry right, make value readable without tutorial, show transformation before proclaiming. Data backs promise retention delays, recommendation rates. Client doesn't buy what it is, buys what it says about them using it. You guide without flattering, secure without enslaving. On markets, don't confuse urgency and timing. Buy fear because it compresses prices and reveals weak hands. Sell euphoria because it inflates narratives and blinds guardrails. Your cadence cold, reduced sizes, exit thresholds, written post-mortems. Goal isn't right on micro event, but stacking compounding decisions. In network, practice useful rarity. One sharp help, once right spot, worth more than 10 saturating promises. Create quality debts, not noisy dependencies. Presentation minimal, follow up precise, withdrawal quick, others learn your time dear, but pays. Over long, 4 scenes converge. They adjust cadence to yours, filter noise before coming, arrive prepped because access costs. And everywhere, same equation confirms less volume, more levers, less explanations, more proofs, less presence, more gravity. You now know what this world rewards, not clamor, but architecture, not bare effort, but position-draining flows, not eloquence, but calm proofs that compound. Question no longer how to seem deserving, but how to become necessary. Axis simple and austere, withdraw gestures leaving no useful trace. Install systems working without you, tell less and make more verifiable, keep void where it presses other to reveal. Rest follows by inertia. Negotiations stop jests, markets stop storms, network stops noise. You no longer seek spectacular gains, stack sober consequences until your name synonyms stability, then inevitability. Start without announcement. Today, replace sold hour with reusable milestone, withdraw explanation and leave artifact deciding in your place, cut dopamine spend and fund retention generating asset. Tomorrow, frame scene by silence and measure what other confides to fill it, demand metric from promises or delete. Day after, refuse opportunity buying no options, then standardize what work to expose to leverage. You don't need seen to count, need traversed by value. Let impatience burn in others. Let belief graft on your proofs. Let discipline write your narrative. Patient power always organizes room around what holds. Declare nothing, execute.